Welcome back, this is Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today we're going to be doing a classic glitter burst tumbler. Now this look has been around for quite a while, and it is a very classic look and great for any time of the year. As usual, I'll make sure to put everything I used today into the description box below so that way you guys can shop those items if you would like to. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and let's wake up, prep these tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. For the particular glitter colors that I'm using today, I went ahead and I painted my tumbler in this navy color. I like to paint my tumblers so that way if there's any sparseness in the glitters that it's not really that pronounced. Like you can't really see the silver under of the tumbler itself. So I went ahead and just gave it a good coating of this dark navy because that's the main color that I'll be using today. So I'm using the epoxy method to adhere my glitter down today, and I am just doing a very thin coating of that epoxy around the rest of my tumbler because I'm going to be using a fine glitter, there we go, around the outsides of our burst, and the center will be a chunky glitter. So what I'm doing here is I'm just applying a little bit more epoxy through the center where I know that chunky will be, and just smooth it out, feather it out at the edges, and then we're ready to apply the glitter. Now the chunky glitter that I'm going to be using is extra chunky. Yeah, so there's lots of like shapes in it. There's lots of snowflakes and Christmas trees and confetti and all kinds of stuff in there. So I figured this would be the best one to show you guys. And if you can master this, then you can master any chunky glitter. Okay, it's super simple and I know you guys got this. So whatever kind or style tumbler that you're going to be using, you just want to focus around the center. If you need to, you could have done like a spray of the matching color to go underneath so that way you kind of had a visual line for yourself. But I'm just going to just eyeball it and I'm going to make sure that I just go right in the center, or try to go right in the center of my tumbler. Now with these particular tumblers here, the curvy ones, I try to focus right at the hip, right where it starts to curve. So I'm just going to focus on that, and I'm going to do about a 1 to 2 inch area of my glitter all the way around. And instead of dumping the chunkies on, especially this kind of chunky, because like I said, it's a lot chunkier, I'm just using my fingers to sprinkle it from high up so that way it flattens out better as it falls onto the tumbler. So now that that center ring is done up, we are going to go ahead and focus on tilting our tumbler downwards so that way we can start to cascade the glitter from our burst area. And I'm doing this all in real time with you guys so that way we can do this together, okay? This is how simple it is, okay? So again, once that side is done, we're gonna go ahead and flip it the opposite direction so that way we can cascade the glitter down the opposite direction. So I'm showing you there where I point out, that's exactly where I drop my glitter, and then I just let it cascade up the side. So there you go. Now you can see it a little bit better. And then I just let that glitter fall upwards towards the rim. So just the main thing I can tell you guys so far from what we've done is making sure that whatever you use, if it's the epoxy or glue method to adhere your glitters down, make sure you put a bit more in the center where your chunky glitter will be, so that way that chunky glitter can spread out and lay flat for you, and it just makes it so much more easier once you start applying your coats of glitter, so that way you don't have to work too hard with making sure you have a smooth final finish. So now that our center is down, I'm going to go ahead and just anything that just is bent, because sometimes those snowflakes get a little bent in the process of packaging them and stuff. I'm just going to pull those off and just sweep away anything I really know I don't want. Like I didn't want that snowflake up around the rim. And I'm just going to continue to pat everything down so that way, again, it's as smooth as possible for me. All right, I tapped everything down the best that I could there. And now we are going to add our fine glitter around the top and the bottom. Now I'm using a deep colored navy, and it is probably one of my favorites right now. It is so beautiful, such a beautiful color. So I just like to coat my bottom first, and then I come through and make sure that all that glitter is nicely filled in. Now, after I make sure that's nicely filled in, I'm going to focus right at the edge there, right where the sides meet the bottom at that point there, and I'm going to drop my glitter down onto that edge while I am holding the tumbler upright. So that way, again, it begins that ombre or cascade effect with our glitters meeting up with our chunky glitter. Then I'm going to come through and I'm just going to very lightly, I don't want to fill it in too much. I'm just going to very, very lightly kind of fill in just a little bit more right around the edge of my burst here, making sure that, again, there's no sparseness, not too much of a sparseness, there we go, where everything meets together. So again, I'm going to come over to the top rim and tilting it in the opposite direction. I'm going to focus my glitter right at that top rim and just let everything fall down naturally right around the top of our burst as well. And then just very slowly, gradually bringing it down to the very top of our center burst, just filling in any little extra areas, and there we go. So you don't have to do this part because it's beautiful as is, but I just wanted a little bit more pronouncedness to the center of that silver. So I'm going to take a little bit of sugar and I'm just going to sprinkle that right down into the center. Again, just doing the same exact thing as we did with our chunky, just letting it cascade off to each side of that initial stripe we made in the center. And again, this is just going to add more vibrancy to the center, making it, I just feel like it just pops a little bit better now. But again, you don't have to do this part if you don't want to. Okay, if you don't want to mess with it. But there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and let that cure, and then we're ready to move on to the next step. So the next step is just sweeping away any extra glitter that just didn't adhere down to our epoxy when we applied it. So you're just going to come through and sweep that off really, really well. Then you're going to come through and spray it down with some 2x ultra spray so that way your epoxy doesn't potentially wick away off of your metallic glitters. Then is the process of adding our first layer of epoxy right over top. We are going to add about, because I'm using a 30-ounce tumbler, I'm going to add about 30 milliliters of epoxy over top of this. Place that onto my turner and make sure that I hit it up really good with my torch. Now right down into that wet epoxy, we're going to take our chunky glitter one more time. It's called Polar. I don't know if I said that earlier, but I know you guys could see it. And I'm just going to do very, very small pinches of this chunky glitter and just kind of add, again, just a little bit more to it, giving it just a little bit more depth and dimension and adding a little bit more to that burst. But the main thing with this part is, again, it's just small pinches because you don't want to accidentally put on too much and you didn't want too much. You know what I mean? So just little tiny pinches at a time as you go to fill it in just a little bit more. And like I said, this particular glitter has like chunky stuff in it or shapes in it like snowflakes and trees. So I'm just trying to make sure that I get a little bit more of those shapes and stuff going on because obviously I'm doing kind of a winter themed tumbler here. So I'm just trying to make sure that those shapes are a little bit more pronounced just up around the rim, just a little bit more and around the bottom as well. So after this cures, you're going to want to go ahead and come through and put another coating of epoxy over top so that way all that raw glitter that's still exposed right here is covered up before we move on to the next step. Super easy, right? I told you guys, super easy, and it has such a beautiful ending look to it. I absolutely love it. So now that that has cured, we are going to go ahead and come through and we're going to go ahead and trim up the rim. We are going to give it a bit of a sanding because it does look pretty smooth, but there are still some little tiny bumps in it. So we're going to go ahead and sand it just a little bit. You don't want to destroy the glitter underneath, but you definitely want to sand down the majority of those lumps the best that you can. So that way, again, when we go to do the final coats of epoxy, everything just becomes nice and smooth for you. After that, I'm going to go ahead and come through with some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel and wipe off any extra little debris. And then it's time for your decal. So I got this decal right off of Creative Fabrica. It came exactly like this. All you had to do is size it down to the size that you want. I don't like to go over 3.5 in width, and then wherever the height lands on that is what I like to do. So I was having a hard time deciding where I wanted it. I just did a basic white vinyl because I didn't want to take away too much from the center burst that we did. So that's why I chose the color that I did. And then I forgot to pick up the two little bits there. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Now the Z and the Y look normal. Okay, so I couldn't decide if I wanted it straight in the center of my burst or if I wanted it on the bottom, but I chose the bottom. Either way, I think would have looked really cute. But after that's done, all you got to do is apply its last two finishing coats of epoxy, and she is ready to go. Whether you take this design and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching this tutorial today. Again, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.